So let's take a look at the grid then. Alonso on pole position for the 17th time in his career. Hamilton, his 9th front row start this season. He's averaging 7 points a race. The row 2, Massa, is he carrying more fuel, or the Ferrari's just not fast around here? Heidfeld, another solid job, ahead of Raikkonen, who's on the back foot after that accident. Kubica is carrying plenty of fuel in his BMW. Kovalainen gets ahead of Rosberg on row 4. Through to row 5, Jarno Trulli and Jenson Button into the top 10, and very pleased about that too. Webber is 11th, Barrichello is 12th for Honda. Then it's Wirtz and Anthony Davidson, again punching well and truly above his weight, in 14th. Fisichella very frustrated with being blocked by Barrichello. Vettel outqualifies teammate Liuzzi. Row 9, Takuma Sato, and for the 5th time this season, Ralf Schumacher is in the cheap seats. It's Liuzzi and Coulthard on row 10. Coulthard had a gearbox problem. At the back, the new Spiker isn't quite fast enough yet. Sutil ahead of Yamamoto. This is the fastest track on the Formula One calendar. A top speed of 220 miles an hour, an average lap speed of 160. We take a look then at the grid. Alonso's 17th career pole, the 9th time this year that Hamilton has been up there. Look at Heidfeld getting a Ferrari behind him, but Raikkonen has got a good excuse after that huge accident he suffered on Saturday morning. Robert Kubica, we understand, is carrying a reasonable amount more fuel than teammate Heidfeld. Kubica, of course, on the podium here last year for BMW. Pretty much everyone from Nico Rosberg backwards we think is going to be doing a one-stop strategy this afternoon. The front runners will be stopping twice, and you can see down the field it's pretty much as you would expect. The Honda's slightly outperforming recent form. Anthony Davidson again putting some distance between himself and his teammate Takuma Sato. Ralf Schumacher again underperforming. David Coulthard, he had a gearbox problem right at the start of qualifying, so 20th does not represent the best that he can do. But Mark Webber was saying on Thursday, Massa there just jumping past a slow to get away Alonso off the formation lap. Hamilton just slowing Massa down a little bit to keep him in his box. It looks to me that most of the front runners are starting on the harder of the two Bridgestone compound tyres. Well, we mentioned, as you saw there clearly, the soft tyre on Kimi Raikkonen's car. Why has he opted to do that? Well, in Turkey, if you were watching a couple of weeks ago, you can see those white stripes now on Raikkonen's front tyres and rear tyres. The reason for that was that possibly a couple of weeks ago in Turkey we saw Ferrari using the softer tyres, at Lewis Hamilton pointing across at Fernando Alonso. 53 laps to decide the winner of the Italian Grand Prix. 5 lights go out now. Hamilton on the left, Alonso on the right. It's a great start for Alonso. Hamilton pushes Massa almost onto the grass, but the Ferrari is through, and Raikkonen is having a go as well. Can he get through? Massa is definitely past Hamilton. Hamilton goes to the outside to protect. He nudges Alonso. He took a slight gain by cutting the chicane there. It'll be interesting to see what the stewards say. It's not really enough to penalise him probably. One of the Renaults up on the grass as well. But Lewis Hamilton saw the danger immediately from Massa, and that danger has not subsided on the run down to the second chicane now. Massa has another look. Hamilton's a bit ragged at the moment. Needs to keep Massa behind him. All hell breaks loose behind him.
Yeah, and Lewis then moved to the inside to cover the line. He's having to be super defensive on this early part of the lap, and pushing the rules to the limit. I think as long as you don't gain time across the chicane or gain a position, you'll be allowed to do that a couple of times, is my understanding, before you'll be getting the warning. But Lewis there with a very, very wide McLaren at the moment. It's paid off.
Kubica 6th, Kovalainen 7th, 8th is Rosberg, 9th Button, and 10th is Mark Webber.
David Coulthard making 5 places on that first lap. Good effort from him. He's up to P15 from 20th on the grid. So Lewis was clearly moving around to defend his position. You're allowed to move once. He didn't really go and fully block the other side of the track, but he was certainly pushing the boundaries there of the code of conduct, if you like, of the drivers. Oh, big accident. Coulthard off the track for Red Bull. David Coulthard, and that's a biggish accident there at DC. Looks like he's obviously able to get out by himself. A bit of a hoarding there coming into the car. Something blue at the front. Something's broken on Coulthard's car in the Curva Grande, and a oblique angle into the wall. And then Heidfeld nearly got caught out as the two Ferrari drivers were trying to avoid each other. Heidfeld had to overlap them.
Everyone bunching up for the restart, and look at Massa, he's watching very carefully, he's getting really close to the back of the McLarens. Now Alonso drops the hammer. Remember, the Parabolica is the corner that leads out onto the start-finish line, so they'll be going at enormous speed when they take the restart, building up to about 220 miles an hour down this long start-finish straight, and it looks like the two McLarens are tucked up in each other's slipstream, bit of space back to Massa. Heidfeld is weaving about, but he's nowhere near the back. Hamilton has a little look at the back of Alonso then into the first chicane, but no way through. Not allowed to overtake, of course, until he crosses the start-finish line. A little bit of action further back, though. I think one of the Hondas there, Jenson Button involved. Mark Webber had a look at him, I think.
Well, Lewis fancied to go there, thought better of it. He's got such a finesse on the brake pedal that really puts him in a commanding situation like that, or when overtaking. And we've seen him so strong in the first corner. He's got almost a sixth sense where he knows he's not going to be locking the front brakes. The Renault there alongside the Superaguri of Davidson. That's Davidson and Fisichella.
Ferrari mechanics, get ready. That's unscheduled, I think, for them. But let's hear anyway. Louise has got David Coulthard.
David, we saw bits that looked like coming off the front of your car. What exactly happened?
In the middle of the first chicane, I cut the back of Fizzy's car, and I've broken obviously the front wing. So when I've been going through Curva Grande, the wings dropped down and went under the car, and obviously taken away my steering. So, you know, unfortunate scenario. Obviously, it's done a lot of damage to the car, and weekend over.
Thanks, David.
Unscheduled stop for Felipe Massa, lap 10. I mentioned his lap times have been a bit erratic the last 2 or 3 laps. What was that all about? You didn't get a slow puncture or something? Let's take a look here.
Yeah, well, he just did that on purpose. He knows he's coming in the pits. He couldn't be bothered with those curbs, and no attempt to go around the corner at all. He knows he's heading for retirement.
With Nico Rosberg in 8th place. Button's been lapping pretty consistently. He's got a lot of fuel in that car, as has Rosberg, and these two are genuinely fighting for over 7th place here this afternoon. Chance of some good points for both men.
Yes, Nico was trying to be quite cunning there. He knew he had to let Jenson back through, but you kind of feather a bit and let them almost through, and then try and disadvantage them down in the next chicane and to try to get that pole. And indeed, Lewis Hamilton is slowing down desperately hard, and Ted's down there.
Yeah, and Lewis coming in, and that explains why Lewis was so disappointed with his qualifying performance, because he was lighter than Fernando Alonso, who got pole by that margin. It's the first of 2 stops, because on go another set of hard tyres, and that's a quick stop. Good stop by the McLaren boys, but Lewis will stop again.
Out goes Lewis Hamilton then. He will feed Verlainen and Button. I wonder if Lewis has popped out into that.
This is Lewis trying to get down to the speed limit. Probably, yeah, I think he's all right. It doesn't matter if you flat spot those. They're about to be discarded anyway, those tyres. So, yeah, he looks like he got that down all right. We'll find out if he didn't.
Well, he had a margin of about 1.5 seconds over Lewis Hamilton first time round. Hamilton had squeezed it down to 1.1. Any problems here for Alonso would hand the lead to Hamilton. It looks pretty much like clockwork. Reasonable amount of fuel going in there, slightly slow away. A lot of fuel though into Alonso's car, and I have to say very impressed with the McLaren mechanics, the boys on the shop floor and the engineers. All the problems politically have not affected them. Everything they do, they seem to be doing like clockwork basically. Out comes Alonso, and Hamilton is comfortably behind him.
He's lost out there somewhere, although because it'll concertina up as Alonso just finds his way down into that braking zone for turn 1 from a tight angle, and not allowed to cross the white line, otherwise they'll be penalised. They have to pretty much approach the first chicane on the wrong line, and it looks like Alonso's a net winner there, as Rosberg and Button are still going at it hammer and tongs, and Jenson will not give up. Good on you.
Great stuff between these two. Jenson Button and Nico Rosberg thoroughly enjoying themselves here at Monza, and we're enjoying the scrap as well. Here comes part 3 or 4, is it? Part 5. Rosberg round the outside into the Roger chicane. Jenson takes curve, gives him the space. That was fair by Jenson, and it allowed Rosberg through, but this is a story to be continued for sure. Rosberg then up into 7th place, Button down into 8th. Mark Webber watching it all from behind in the Red Bull.
Down into the first chicane, and Jenson's gone defensive on the inside. Rosberg with the cleaner line, but Jenson with the high ground in terms of track position, and just skirts right around the outside. Brilliant driving by both of them.
Have problems there. I don't think I can recall seeing anyone have any problems there in all the years I've been coming to Monza.
sometimes the dynamics just all go horribly wrong, and you can crash in a straight line, as bizarre as it seems, and I have done it a couple of times. The back end just jumps off the top of the bump, and then Raikkonen is in third at the moment. It's lap 31. What else is going on? Webber for Red Bull yet to stop as well in 7th, Barrichello 8th, Trulli 9th, Kovalainen 10th for Renault. He has stopped, as did Kubica. With Kubica's pit stop problem, the front jack, he's ended up behind Kovalainen.
Well, you do find people in the paddock who don't rate him, but I have to say he's really impressed me this year. He will move to 3 points behind Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship with 4 races to go. It really will be anybody's. Here's Mark Webber in the Red Bull into the pits. He puts on the softer of the Bridgestone tyres. Most of the midfield runners are pitting only once today. Barrichello's just come in. His teammate Jenson Button, who was running 7th in the early stages, and is hopefully going to finish there if things work out for him, has made his one and only stop of the afternoon. The story of the race so far, a relatively straightforward one. A frenetic opening lap saw Alonso leading away from pole. Lewis Hamilton robustly defending against Felipe Massa on the opening lap, but holding second place. David Coulthard had an accident when the front wing failed on his car.
And will Hamilton be in this lap? It's a very close call as to whether he's got enough. Over this is for Lewis. Has he got enough in hand to come out ahead of Kimi Raikkonen? It'll be very close.
I don't think he has. Ted Kravitz is waiting for us. This is all about second place, Ted.
And it's all about absolute clockwork work by these pit mechanics at McLaren. Lewis hits his marks perfectly, but at McLaren they are incredibly nervous about Raikkonen. I'm not sure it's going to be enough. It's a good stop. Off Lewis goes. Where is Raikkonen?
Down the long straight goes Lewis Hamilton at pit lane speeds. Let's have an open shot, and we should see Kimi Raikkonen. There he is, I believe. The Ferrari goes across the start-finish line, and he's about to take second place away from Lewis Hamilton. The crowd goes bonkers underneath us on the main straight. Lewis Hamilton has gone from second to third place. He is now potentially 4 World Championship points from this race behind his main rival Fernando Alonso. A huge setback for the British 22-year-old in his rookie season, and Alonso will be smiling in the cockpit of the lead McLaren here, riding on board with the world champion in the lead.
It's not even out of the question. The 2 McLarens are not on the grid next weekend in Belgium. Depends on who you're listening to and who has what intentions. But Alonso then was 6 seconds clear of Hamilton, and Raikkonen is only 1.5 seconds clear of Hamilton. So it does seem quite comfortable that Alonso will resume the lead, assuming he has a faultless pit stop. So it's Hamilton then that's got the problem. And he's closed already half a second on Kimi Raikkonen in the first sector of this lap alone. We're going to see some overtaking.
Well, we're certainly going to see an attempt. You need a lot, as I said before, a straight line speed advantage. Kovalainen pops out in 7th place. That's important. Right in front of Jenson Button. I mentioned he was racing against, was it behind Button, or is that Barrichello, I wonder? Barrichello's a place or 2 behind. Kovalainen pops out in front of Button. 7th and 8th they are now then. So that's bad news for Jenson Button. He almost took 7th, didn't he, by staying out on his one stopper. Kovalainen, after his second pit stop, coming straight out in front of him, but still Jenson on target for 1 World Championship point. Mark Webber is somewhere behind. Oh, Hamilton is fast. Hamilton takes second place. We didn't see it, but what must have been one heck of a run up the inside. Hopefully we'll get a replay. And the shadows on the front of Raikkonen's front wing almost making it look like there was some damage there, but there isn't. It's just the shadows. And Hamilton, that showed you what he's made of. Hopefully we'll get a replay really soon, but that is brave stuff by Hamilton to snatch back the second place that he was taken in the ambush on the strategy by Raikkonen.
Yeah, he took over. Here we go. We're in the slipstream now. That is from an awful long way back, and he gets the job done. He never bothers to wait until the second corner to overtake somebody, does he? He just goes straight for gold. And Kimi left him enough room. Look at the extra speed he took through there. Nico Rosberg got a good toe on him down the main straight. Rosberg went defensive. Kubica said, no problem, I'll go right around the outside. A clear pass by 10 metres or so. And then made both apexes. And he currently runs 5th. And he's hunting down at a vast rate of knots Nick Heidfeld, 12 seconds behind him. And not too far to go, of course, 5 laps. He's hunting down Nick Heidfeld. But it's not going to happen. It's 4th and 5th for the BMWs, and as ever, Hamilton reversing that McLaren into the corners. Look at the punishment the suspension and tyres take around here. some 2 seconds a lap slower now than the McLarens, 4 laps to go. He's got a half a minute gap to Heidfeld behind him, so he's under no pressure at all. He's literally coasting to the end of the Grand Prix. All the shifts appear to be there, all the gears are in place, no misfires going on. But he's not really attacking the corners. That's surprising. I can understand the short shifting on the rev. As soon as you see a glimmer of a shift light on his steering wheel, he's changing gear. But it's how slowly he's going through the corners that's surprising. Although, of course, he's still within a couple of seconds of the pace. Look at that. That's outlap stuff when you're not in a particular hurry.
He had over them is reliability. Alonso has finished in the points at every race, and Lewis Hamilton's finished in the points at all but one race, which of course was the Nürburgring, where he had a very eventful weekend, eventually finishing in 9th place. But both cars have made it to the checkered flag on every occasion, and Ferrari have not only had problems in races, they've also had problems in qualifying as well, which have really been a setback, particularly to Raikkonen and Felipe Massa as well. So that's the story. 4 mechanical DNFs this season for Ferrari. Another one here this weekend, and Raikkonen's taking it very gingerly in the closing stages here.
Alonso's lead is 8 seconds over Hamilton. Hamilton backed out by over a second on the last lap. They are in engine preservation mode. It's worked well, the Parc Fermé and the 2 race engines, and in terms of common sense, cost savings, but it's just at moments like this you wish it wasn't in place.
Well, you remember 2 years ago, 2005, they brought in the rule for that 1 year where you had to make a single set of tyres last through qualifying and the whole race, and the one thing that really did was make the end of the race really exciting, because some people had looked after their tyres better than others, and you had some terrific action at the end. Riding on board then with the reigning world champion. He's trying to make it 3 championships in a row, and this victory today, 2 to go, 2 laps to go, will bring him 3 points behind Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, he's changing gear, 17.5, 17.8, something like that. 1,000 revs away from these things will run all day at that. Otherwise they'll do about 1,000 kilometres, and then they have to be, if they don't blow up, they'll have to be overhauled. It's very easy, right, especially I think with these groove tyres, if you let the pressures and temperatures come down a little bit, to just to make a silly mistake. When we did some filming with 2 Williams at Silverstone, Mark Blundell and I, for the features we've been showing recently, I was staggered at how quickly a car could get away from you, or try to get away from you, even in the mildest curve, when you lost a bit of pressure and temperature.
There's a table showing you the winners and losers compared to their grid positions. Raikkonen up 2. Part of that, of course, is down to Massa. And he also passed Heidfeld off Alex Wurz. Ralf Schumacher's only made up 3 places during the course of the day.
Yeah, Wurz hasn't had a good weekend in terms of claiming that Williams seat for next year, has he, to make it his own? Unfortunately for Alex, he's picked up some solid points this year. Button is heading for his 2nd World Championship point of the season.
In Turkey, though, he passed 10 cars, and he was absolutely delighted about his race. Now you can see the apex speed at turn 11, which is the Parabolica, the long last right-hander that goes into the start-finish straight. Alonso has been the fastest man through there all weekend. Absolutely perfect in qualifying yesterday. We were lucky enough to ride on board with him in the 2nd part of qualifying, where he took it as well as I think I've ever seen it. There's Lisa Dennis, the wife of Ron Dennis, who just said yesterday this was the most extreme to cross the line and claim his 4th victory of 2007, his 19th of his career, and little by little, bit by bit, he's eating into the lead in the championship of Lewis Hamilton, who finishes in 2nd place, and for 3rd place. That takes him up to 74 in the World Championship, but that is well over 20 points behind Lewis Hamilton. It's looking pretty remote now, a Ferrari Drivers' World Championship, but that was an immensely important result for Fernando Alonso.
Going to be a different podium field this year. Remember last year Michael Schumacher announcing his retirement, and Ferrari having such a strong time. Alonso dropped out for Renault, and the World Championship very much came alive. But maybe he's going to come alive for different reasons this year, with his hearing coming up in the week. We wait with bated breath. And Heidfeld then, P4, they still got absolutely thrashed by Ferrari, didn't they? Half a minute behind were BMW, so it's an easy but very dejected looking Raikkonen that cruised across the line in third place. I find tragic. I don't see a very happy driver up there at all.
Well, that was the sporting side of Formula One, and very good it was too. All eyes now on a Paris courtroom on Thursday to see what the real outcome of this year's World Championships will be. Sad, but true.
Not much like at Monza in the past, but today, from the pole, set fastest lap and won the Italian Grand Prix.
Yes, absolutely. Perfect weekend for me, and you know, sometimes everything seems to go in the right direction, and you know, you feel in a good way, and you need to keep the momentum. And you know, I think all weekend has been you know, good for me. Sometimes I start good here in Monza, but I always had some problems in the race, and I miss always the victory and the win here. And you know, to win here in Monza for the first time is you know, very, very special win.
It wasn't too bad, the car actually. In the first stint was pretty okay. We were heavier than the McLaren, so we knew that they're gonna pull away. We tried to keep close enough, but actually we were not quick enough today. But probably the biggest problem for me was that I couldn't keep my head upright anymore in the braking. So